All right, welcome into Hot Topics on Fourth Quarter Clutch. He's Noah Weintraub. I'm Brian Ziegler. Here with some big time stories for you today. We're gonna get to some college basketball. We got some NFL preview for the Redskins at Vikings going on tomorrow night. But first, let's get some NBA action going on here. Noah, what do you think about New York Knicks center Tyson Chandler breaking his leg? Big time story there.
Yeah, well, the technical term is a non-displaced fracture of his right fibula, and I was at that Knicks Bobcats game, and honestly, we meaning like everyone in the crowd, at first thought that it was Kemba that was hurt because Kemba was down on the play, Kemba Walker, and then he got up, and then Tyson was still down, and then we were all just really concerned. And the thing that was kind of scary was that he was helped off the court. There were two teammates that were helping him, and he was limping off the court. And then he was sitting on the bench. It looked like potentially he could come back into the game, but then they took him back to the locker room, and he did not come out again. And when a player gets taken into the locker room, as people probably saw with Aaron Rodgers on Sunday and many other players, that's normally a really serious sign. And Tyson's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. And for a center on the Knicks, especially one like him that's a really good defensive center, it's going to be really crucial. The Knicks have gotten off to a really terrible start. They're 1-3, and he's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. And there is no other player on that roster that is anywhere close to being able to replace him. Andre Bargnani is the expected starter, and he's a terrible defender. Kenyon Martin is a good player from like 2003, and now he's pretty much old and playing his last days. Meta World Peace is good defender and all that, but he's only 6'9". He wouldn't be able to handle playing guys like Roy Hibbert or Joakim Noah or Dwight Howard or Tim Duncan. He would just get dominated in the paint because of the size. And this has to be one of the worst possible injuries that could happen to the New York Knicks. The only thing that I could think of that is worse than this is if Carmelo Anthony got hurt.
Mm,
It's just
absolutely, yeah,
really bad, and the Knicks are going to struggle in this next 4 to 6 week span.
totally agree.
Especially he got 18 rebounds. If it wasn't for him, the Knicks wouldn't have had a shot to beat the Bulls on I think it was Thursday, if I remember right. Thursday or Friday. Can't remember which day it was.
Yeah, yeah, seriously. So what are some of the biggest surprises so far for you in NBA, Noah?
Uh, well, before the start of the year, there were some bets that going on among odds makers of how many wins the Philadelphia 76ers would get this year. The
Yes,
over-under was 16. They almost have 1/5 of that win total. They are 3-1, and getting 3 wins. Most people are probably thinking, oh, they probably beat Boston or Utah or Charlotte. Nope,
I can't
they
believe
beat
this.
Chicago. They beat Miami.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that. I totally agree with that surprise. Like first game of the season, they beat Miami. I mean, and then third game Chicago after Derrick Rose has already had a few games to play and to get like warmed up and stuff. I mean, that was a huge surprise for me.
And their only loss was to Golden State, and Golden State is going
Solid
to be a
team.
very formidable team in the playoffs for the Western Conference. They should make it, and they should be a top 5 seed at worst.
Oh yeah, totally agree on that.
What's your biggest surprise?
Well, actually, that was definitely like my biggest surprise for that. But I gotta say, Denver going like winless so far is a big surprise to me. They're a solid team. They had like 2/3 of their games last year. They won something like that, and I think they had like 55 wins, something like that. I think last year, and that's I mean the fact that they're winless so far. I mean they've only played 3 games, but still the fact that they're winless so far that's a big surprise to me.
The only reason I'm not as surprised, Wilson Chandler's been hurt. and Danilo Gallinari is out
Yeah.
until they're saying at least another month, probably not until January. I am really surprised though with Washington. The Washington Wizards are 0-3. They made a really, really smart trade before the start of the season to trade for Martin Gortat, who's a really underrated center. And he's a really good player, very good defensively, gets points in the paint, gets rebounds, gets blocks. They have Nene, who's really good. They have Trevor Ariza, who's pretty much like the guy that hustles, that won't really get a lot of credit ever. They have Bradley Beal, who's a really good shooting guard. They have John Wall, who's, if he's not one of the top 5 point guards in the NBA, he has to be at least top 7 for how awesome he's been. They have Otto Porter Jr., the guy from Georgetown, who was amazing during Big East play last year. And they have Al Harrington, and everyone loves Al Harrington.
Yeah.
I honestly expected they would be like 1-2 or 2-1 to start the season. I did not ever think they would be 0-3, especially. I mean, they played some difficult teams. They played Miami, they played Detroit, but they also played Philadelphia. And at
Yeah.
some point, Philadelphia is going to come crashing down to earth. They're relying on a lot of young players like Michael Carter Williams, Evan Turner, Thaddeus Young, uh, Spencer Hawes. It's a really, really young team, and
Yeah.
they're probably really hyped for the start of the season. But at some point, they're gonna have a losing streak, and I think that might be the death of them for this year.
Yeah, or an injury. An injury could completely hamper them, like just completely destroy them, because it seems like they're really they got to play as a full team to really, you know what I mean? They have to be like a whole team together to be able to win these games. They don't have like one or two guys that are like big time for them. So it's like if you take a piece out of that, it could just completely all come down.
The thing that's concerning though for the Wizards is their upcoming schedule, and it is a brutal upcoming schedule. They play the 76ers, then they play the Brooklyn Nets, then they play Oklahoma City, then they play Dallas, then they play San Antonio, then they play the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are 2-2. Then they play Minnesota, and the Minnesota Timberwolves are 3-1, and then they play Cleveland again.
Yeah,
Then they
that's a
play
rough
Toronto.
schedule.
I'm not even done yet. They play Toronto Raptors. They're 2-2. Then they play the Knicks, and
Oh man.
although the Knicks could be trouble, then they still will be a little bit of a challenge. And then they play the Lakers. It's just an unbelievably tough schedule for the next like 10 games for the Wizards.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of 0-win teams, which one do you think is in the most trouble at this point?
Oh, that's tough. Um, I'm gonna go with a tie for this one. I'm going Boston and Utah, and
Okay.
it's not just because of their records. It's just the way their teams are formulated.
Okay.
Boston is just terrible in just every sense of the word.
Mhm.
Uh, they traded KG in the offseason, Kevin Garnett.
Yep.
They traded Paul Pierce in the offseason.
Yep.
They traded Jason Terry in the offseason.
That's
They
exactly.
traded their
Yep.
head coach in the offseason. And they lost. They've lost to Toronto, Milwaukee, Detroit, and Memphis. And their only well-known player or kind of well-known player on their roster that's actually not hurt is Jeff Green. And on any other team, Jeff Green would probably be the second or third scoring option,
Yep.
or possibly fourth if he's on Miami. But that's because it's the Miami Heat.
I totally agree with you about Boston. To me, they're definitely in the most trouble. They've got a really, really rough schedule. They got strings of like 5 or 6 games that are just really, really tough games in their schedule. They got the Heat and the Bulls and the Pacers, 3 games for all 3 of those teams. Plus they're going against Golden State. They got a couple of games against Houston. I mean, it's just like it's one team after another, after another, after another. That's just tough matchups. They got Brooklyn, they got the Knicks, and the Knicks they actually have towards the middle of the season, so they might even have Chandler back by then. So I mean, it's like it's just one thing after another of like tough matchups, tough strings that they're going through. I really see them struggling this year. This is the nice way to say it is that they're rebuilding this year. But to me, I mean, I don't see them getting. I don't see them getting 20 wins. I don't see them getting 18 wins.
The thing I'm more concerned with Utah because at least with Boston they have some veterans. They have uh they have Gerald Wallace, he's a veteran. They have Chris Humphreys, he's a veteran. Keith Bogans, he's a veteran. Brandon Bass is a veteran. The
Well, in the
Utah
long
Jazz team is
term, but in the short term, I'm really more worried about the Celtics in the short term.
no, I'm saying I'm less concerned about the Celtics than I am about the Utah Jazz for this season,
Okay.
for the short term. Because the Utah Jazz, they're a really young team, and they don't really have a lot of veterans. So you need at least someone in the locker room in order to try and stir them in the right direction when people get down. Gerald Wallace has had tremendous success. Chris Humphreys has had success. Uh, they have Rondo. Rondo has had success, and even though he's not healthy, he's probably on the sideline talking to the players, be like, "Look, we went through some hard times. I, uh, we went through some hard times before I got there, and then myself and a bunch of other players, we helped turn the team around, and we led them to NBA Finals." Utah Jazz don't really have any veterans. Their veterans are Richard Jefferson, and he hasn't really done anything playoff wise since like 2003. Jamal Tinsley, and he was never really a good player. They have Andres Biedrins, who just travels around the league and doesn't really do much. And they have Marvin Williams, who has some playoff experience, but he was on the Atlanta Hawks. They pretty much get knocked out in the first round every year that they go. Occasionally they'll get to the second round. And their team is really young. The core of their team. Their point guard is terrible. It's John Lucas III. And they also have Trey Burke from Michigan. They also have Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward is really young from Butler. If you remember the really good Butler teams.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah.
They have.
I wouldn't count out
They
Trey
have
Burke though. I wouldn't just breeze over him. I mean, he had a really
no,
solid
but I'm
college career.
right. But what I'm saying is he's a rookie. He's very
Oh
young.
yeah,
This is a very young team,
absolutely.
and he's not even the starting point guard. John Lucas III is.
Yeah.
They have Derek Favors. Derek Favors is still pretty young. They have Enes Kanter. Enes Kanter, it's his first year. Him and Derek Favors are replacing Paul Millsap and Al Jefferson. And those are really big shoes to fill. And then they have Richard Jefferson, who all he really does now is make an occasional three-pointer. He doesn't really do much else.
Yeah.
So I would not be surprised if the Jazz end up with the worst record in the league.
I think it's going to be close between them and Boston. I really do. But I think that's a good point about Rajon Rondo being able to have an effect on the players and coach them up a little bit and give them some peace of mind, I guess, about the season and also give them some pointers and some tips, that kind of thing, because that's really all you can do at this point, and I don't really see him playing until at least the end of the season. And if they're not going to make the playoffs, they might not even play him at all. So
I totally agree. And also the latest update for Rondo isn't too encouraging. This is from 2 days ago, November 4th. Rajon Rondo knee surgery is wearing a protective brace and has slowly intensified his running and lateral movement, but there is no timetable for his return. He's still got some time. That was the head coach, Brad Stevens. There's no need to rush back and not be fully ready and be fully healed. I think it's a matter of gaining strength in that leg. He's itching to play. Let's put it that way. The Celtics are surely itching to have Rondo back too, as they are by far the league's worst team in assist to turnover ratio at .68. And that was from the Boston Globe.
wow, that is really bad.
So they're in a lot of trouble, but I think if Rondo comes back, they are by far a better team than Utah.
Yeah. All right, we got an interesting story coming out of Colgate. Actually, one of their starting players, Nathan Harries, was being denied a year of eligibility for. He actually played in sort of a pickup league for a Baptist church. It was a religious Baptist church, and the NCAA is now denying him a year of eligibility because of that. It's sort of a rule that they have. It's sort of a technicality that they've got going on here because of organized basketball. Noah, what do you think about this story?
So let me get this straight. Cam Newton allegedly accepts some money to go to Auburn. Doesn't get suspended at all or anything like that. Nick Saban, apparently there are these rumors that they're saying he might go to Texas when he's in a contract with Alabama. That's not illegal. He's not getting suspended at all. But a guy plays in a church league and gets denied a year of eligibility. I feel like there's something wrong there.
This is just the NCAA doing another thing that is just like totally screwed up. I'm trying to figure out like who's running this stuff. Who is enforcing this stuff? Why, are they unable to look at this and be like, wow, this guy was playing an organized group in a like organized group of players with probably 30s, 40s-year-old guys. This is a pickup game. And you're going to deny him a year of eligibility because he went and had some fun with some guys playing basketball? I mean, why do you think he plays the game? He likes it. He loves basketball. So sue him. Deny him eligibility because he wants to have fun with this? What is that? That's just stupid.
And he was a pretty good player in high school. His senior year, he averaged 17.6 points a game.
Yeah, he's a great player. I don't understand what the NCAA was trying to prove about this. I don't see that there wasn't anything to prove in this. It was just some little rule thing that they decided to not take on a case-by-case basis.
And he also played in only 3 games, and it was as a fill-in.
Yeah, this is the NCAA taking things just way too far.
But just so you know, earlier on in the year, I did a post about this with Stephen Rhodes, the Middle Tennessee State football player, the one that was in the Marines and played some football there. He was also initially denied eligibility, but because of what I'm assuming is media pressure, along with a variety of other reasons, didn't want to appear unpatriotic, they overturned it. So the NCAA might overturn this, but I think it's time for them to switch up ownership or whoever's running the show at the top, because this is just embarrassing. First it's the Marines, now it's the church league.
Yeah.
What's next? Someone helping out at a kid's basketball game getting denied a year of eligibility? I mean, seriously.
Well, these players shouldn't have to worry about something like that. They shouldn't have to worry about, oh, I'm sorry, I can't play a pickup game of basketball with you because I could get, I might not be able to play in college for a year. That's just stupid. That doesn't make any sense at all. It's completely ridiculous. And, I mean, to top it off, then this is a church league. I mean, you talk about separation of church and state or something. I mean, this should be completely unrelated.
Exactly.
So the NCAA to me just shouldn't have gotten involved in this at all. They should have just completely stayed out of it.
Honestly, I like seeing the players get involved with the fans or whoever else is playing basketball outside the court. Look at the Uncle Drew commercials.
Yeah.
With Kyrie Irving, they had Kevin Love, they had who else had? They had Nate Robinson, Maya Moore, and Kyrie Irving in the recent Uncle Drew commercial. And if you watch that commercial and say it's not entertaining, I don't know what to say, because that is a really, really entertaining commercial. And there's probably hundreds, if not thousands, of similar occurrences that happen.
Yeah.
And it's good for the game. It's not terrible for the game. Saying that a guy is playing basketball while also helping his local church, how's that a bad thing? If anything, that's a
Exactly.
really good promotion for the NCAA.
Exactly. And this guy, I mean, you want to discourage these players from getting involved in their local community and with their church as well. The guy's a religious player. He's a churchgoer. I mean, what next? I mean, what's next? Somebody's gonna go help out at a blood drive, and we're gonna tell them that we're gonna arrest them or something. I mean, it's just weird. It's just wrong. All right.
Speaking of something that's wrong, for the Sunday night game, the Chicago Bears versus the Green Bay Packers, there was something else interesting that happened beside Aaron Rodgers missing potentially 4 to 6 weeks, according to the latest report. A husband and wife made a bet on the game, and typically you think it's a friendly bet. Maybe the loser has to go do the laundry, or take out the trash, or drive the kids to a local game. That's what you think of when you think of friendly bet, right?
No.
Well,
yes, I do, but not the case in this situation.
Well, with this one, this was apparently about who would get tasered.
That's what I think of all the time when I think of bets in this situation. It's the first thing that comes to mind.
The Chicago Bears beat the Green Bay Packers 27-20, and so what happened was, they were watching at a bar in Mayville, Wisconsin, and they went into an alley next to the bar to smoke cigarettes, and the husband tasered the wife twice in the buttocks while she filmed it with her cell phone camera.
As she was laughing.
As she was laughing. I know that sounds really, really surprising. I was totally shocked when I read this too.
So was she! Oh!
But then you're terrible. But then he tasered her a third time in the thigh, and then not the 2 times in the buttocks. That wasn't the limit. Apparently, the third time was the limit because then an argument ensued, and it ended up to the police being there. And the police chief, Christopher McNeil, seemed really, really surprised at the whole situation. There's a quote from him in the ESPNChicago.com article. You can't make this stuff up. It takes the rivalry to a whole new level.
Oh man, this is what football is all about, man. This is what sports is all about. Just doing stupid, ridiculous, but hilarious stuff that's just wicked funny. I don't think that she should have gotten the police involved because that's just dumb. But I don't know what the bet, like the specific number of taserings was the bet or something. But I think the husband was also actually very considerate in the first 2 of the tasering of the buttocks, because it just doesn't nearly do as much damage as if you taser someone in their torso or in their arm or something like that. So to me, I think he was actually a good sport about it. He may have crossed the line a little bit in going more towards like a thigh area, because it's a much more sensitive area in general. But I agree with the police chief. You can't make this stuff up, and this is so much better than betting a bunch of money and stuff like that. This is hilarious, and this is what it's all about. It's funny.
I have to admit, one of the most shocking things of all of it. The wife told the police that she didn't think her husband would follow through with it.
Yeah, I have to say, I would have followed through on that one. If it was me, you make a bet, you got to follow through with it. But I probably would have, I don't think I would have gone to like the extreme lengths of like the third tasering that he did and stuff. I probably would have just stuck with the first 2 and making it just a fun, like funny thing.
And also to bring a little bit of a social media aspect into it, looking at the article, one of the top comments, and you can't make this up. This could be almost as bad as the article itself. If you think tasering is bad, you should hear the voicemail that Richie Incognito left for her.
Oh, that's a low blow. That's a low
Yeah.
blow. Oh man. All right. Well, anyways, let's get into the Thursday night game. We got the Redskins at the Vikings. Noah, what are you thinking about for this game here?
When you told me earlier that the betting line was 3 points that the Redskins were getting for that game, I am still shaking my head in disapproval. I don't know how they're only getting 3 games. The
3
Vikings
points,
have
yeah.
won one game this year. They won one game against the Steelers, and they have looked bad in literally every other game this year. So I don't know who makes these lines up. Maybe it's because of Adrian Peterson, and
It's
that's
got to be
why
because of Adrian
they got him
Peterson.
the chance. Because it's just insane. I mean, it's gonna be a high scoring game. I wouldn't be surprised if the score was like 40-35. I would not be surprised if RG3 threw for 3 touchdowns. And the thing that will be interesting, that will be worth watching, is who does better between Alfred Morris and Adrian Peterson.
Yes.
That's really about it.
I have to agree with you on that one for sure. I don't think this is going to be a big throwing game. I think this is going to be a little bit, definitely a rushing type game, like a ground and pound kind of thing, which to me says that it's going to be a little bit lower scoring than that, like the 40-35 than what you're talking about. I don't think it's going to be quite that high. This season, though, like just about every single Thursday night game has been a higher scoring game. And I think that just comes down to defenses not being able to get as much, like quite as comfortable against the other offense throughout the week in their preparation and stuff like that. For me, I have to say, I think it's probably going to be around like 30-24, probably is what I would say. I got to give the Redskins the edge by 6, that's for sure. Because 3 is just I don't see that at all. I do see AP having a big time game, and I think that's why they're saying it's going to be a little bit closer. But I don't think he's going to break as many as enough to keep them in the game, to keep them to get a win for them. But I definitely see AP having a big time game against the Redskins defense that's ranked like 31st or 32nd in the league. It's really, really bad. So
Oh yeah, totally.
yeah, yeah. So I don't see the Vikings winning this game, but I definitely see it being probably about 6 points. I'm saying 6 points. Yeah,
All right, yeah, I can agree with that.
yeah. All right.
All right, thank you for tuning in to another edition of Fourth Quarter Clutch. As with me, as always, is Brian Ziegler. I'm Noah Weintraub. Thank you for tuning in.